Welcome back to week 2 of our At the Bar series with Marcella Davis. Thank you for joining us again. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into the communication side. Communication is obviously paramount for any size organisation. What are your tips on building a framework around that?
I think that's a really interesting one, because if we start with businesses actually understanding that communication is paramount, I think sometimes...
And you find a lot of them don't?
Yeah, well, that's actually some of the reasons why we get brought in, you know, to set up comms frameworks. But I think most of the time it's because they're not even sure what role it plays. So, you know, small or big, very traditional ways of thinking, very directive ways of communicating, and that necessarily doesn't make the cut through. So there's
What do you mean by directive way?
Yeah, so I think it's like, say for example in a supermarket, put the baked beans on the shelf is a very directive kind of instruction, versus sharing with them why it is important that consumers are looking for baked beans. I think giving people context. Giving them a
deeper understanding and context.
Just giving them context gives them better purpose, and discretionary effort goes through the roof.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's very true. I find a lot of people turn up to work just because they have to, and then they go home feeling like they didn't achieve anything. Do you think that kind of comms framework helps that?
Yeah, I think people having purpose, there is so much power behind that, and you find that people will go over and above. So in terms of designing frameworks, I think it really is about trying to understand what it is that you're trying to deliver and what it is that you think that they need to hear. And in any type of comms framework, I'm a strong believer in the fact that you've got to have the ability to have it fed back up the line. So not just one way, but back up the other way. There is so much gold in what is happening in your business you might not even realise.
That's true. And do you think, obviously we're a video production company, so we're buyers, but on that two-way communication, and most people think of video from top down, but it can also be from bottom up. Do you think there's space for video in any comms strategy?
Absolutely.
Oh, good answer, you get to stay.
Absolutely, no, truly I do, and I think it's the power of connection. And that's, again, I strongly believe in that. I think, you know, if it's written, there's so much other pieces of information that come out of that versus this type of communication. It's really powerful.
And what's your experience of having video as a tool in the workplace?
Slightly old school. So I met this wonderful man named Dan, and he introduced video into the workplace that I was in. It fundamentally changed the way in which our business connected, again, from top down, bottom up. We were making large cultural shifts that I'm confident we would not have been able to do unless that type of comm strategy was in place. And we were a very dispersed group, so we were regionally spread, and video played a strong role in getting messages right across the line.
So when you say bottom up as well, it's easy to make top down videos, but how did that work?
Oh, they could make their own.
Make their own content and share it back up.
Yeah, and share it back up the line. Again, very, very powerful. And people were sort of sharing it with each other and creating banter, and that you just can't create if it was just sitting with one person.
One video,
so,
the standard quarterly CEO shout out
Exactly.
video.
That had a place, but it was shared
it's
with
one
others.
part of a bigger puzzle.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us again.
Pleasure.
And don't forget to join us next week. Cheers.